Hello, my name is Meghan Stocks. I am a 2013 graduate of the University of Richmond. I attended Richmond from the fall of 2009 until the spring of 2013. I played defensive back for the Spiders, mostly on the left back, outside left and right. And now I am a middle school reading specialist. So I started out as a middle school English teacher for eighth grade for forever, did 1 year, seventh grade, and now I am the reading specialist at the same school and also a high school and middle school field hockey coach. So I'll speak first to how Richmond has contributed to my personal growth. And oh my goodness, first, it's just opened doors for me that I never thought were possible. I always just figured you go to college, I played a sport all my life. D1 for me was kind of like the pinnacle, and then you play and that's it. I never for a minute imagined that I would have a nonprofit, that I would be working with USA Field Hockey, Olympians, that I would be presenting at the NFHCA, which is the National Field Hockey Coaches Association. So all of the field hockey coaches, we're talking D1, D2, D3, we're talking about Olympians, USA members are all there, that I would be giving talks to them, or I'd be a featured speaker or any of that. So personally, it has just helped me grow into the woman I am now, the businesswoman that I am now. The minor philanthropist, I probably don't have the same tax bracket as most philanthropists, but I feel that way in some senses because it's just helped me realize how important it is to serve. And a lot of that was due to the coaches and the people who've been in my life. And a lot of those people I did meet while I was at Richmond. And professionally, much in the same manner. And it's so funny because I feel like a lot of people can separate their life between personally and professionally, and mine merge. So I'm also a middle school reading specialist. So I work with students, but I encourage a lot of my students to play hockey, and especially my younger Black and brown players, because I know representation and because of my own path, and just giving them an extra outlet and putting them in spaces and helping them to see maybe a path that they didn't think was really for them, and just opportunities, because we understand, what sports can do socially, but also academically, and scholarships and things like that. And so honestly, those lines professionally and personally, they're so blurred for me, but it's great because it's like that quote where it's if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I do. It's even though field hockey in a lot of senses is my job because of my business and because of other ventures and officiating, but I love it so much that it's just such a blessing. And I love every time I get to do it. Like tonight, I have a session where I get to coach, but it's like kindergartners and first graders. And I didn't think I would ever get to them for the next couple years, but to see them, and they're actually pretty good. They're pretty dexterous. And so all of that was like a tiny seed planted at Richmond that has just grown and flourished in so many different ways. And in that same breath, that's kind of helped shape me. Like my time at Richmond helped shape me because, like I said, one of my coach, Gina Lucida, was so huge on service. She never was one of those seniors, you don't have to do anything. Freshman, you have this grunt work, all these jobs and this, that, and the third. It was no, everybody serves everybody. Captains serve the most. So if you were a captain, you were doing more for your teammates than almost anyone else. And a lot of places don't operate like that. There's a level of seniority, a hierarchy. And for her, it was every single one of us is capable of helping somebody else in a certain way. And we would have different service projects, and then even my teammates, their service and the hours and volunteering. And that honestly compelled me to start my nonprofit. That coupled with my own story, but it was like, you know what? Let's give back. The sport needs it. The people need it. We can make it more accessible, more affordable, more visible. And if I hadn't had that time at Richmond, if I hadn't been able to make certain connections or be in the rooms with certain people, or just even have the experience that I had, the ups and the downs, I don't think I ever would have gotten to this point. With field hockey, it's a very white sport, a very affluent sport. In certain parts, I would say more in America. Obviously, if you go to other places, whether it's Europe or Latin America or whatever, I'm not really sure of the socioeconomic status of a lot of the people, but they have more turfs. It's just more popular in general. But I can speak to my experience here where I grew up playing. It was pretty diverse. It wasn't as popular. It was huge in Virginia Beach because at the time that was the home of the national team. And Norfolk, Virginia, which is probably like maybe not even half an hour away from it, depending on traffic, is was home to like perennial powerhouses ODU, who's now tied with UNC with 10 national championships. But the whole area was laden with it. But it wasn't really in middle schools and things like that. And, you know, sports, especially for young girls and kids in general, the earlier you can start it, the more you kind of get into it, the easier it is to stick with it. So kids weren't really getting into it until a little later, which is also what happened to me. But when I played, at least in high school, I was thankful enough to be in a diverse area. Like I had other Black and Asian and brown multiracial teammates. And then once I started playing more competitively and doing clubs and different things, I realized that there were a lot fewer people who looked like me who played. And then even more so when I got to Richmond. And I'm more than positive of this fact that I am the first Black or African American player on the team, which is insane to say because I mean I got there in 2009, which I mean I know is what like been a minute, but at the same time it's kind of like, you know, you hear all these first, you just don't think it's going to happen in your lifetime, let alone happen to you. But that really compelled me to start the nonprofit because a lot of that was, I remember, and to this day, like when I go do a lot of my collegiate reffing, most times I'm the only Black person on the field, and we're talking like fans, we're talking coaching staff, players, the event staff, so like the field and the maintenance members. And it's just one of those things where it's like sports is for everyone, you know, like sports is, it's like a great equalizer in a lot of ways. It's not about like the money you have or this, that, and the third. It's about the grit and it's the heart you put in there. You know, you hear those underdog stories all the time, those teams that didn't have like the right facilities or maybe like ample coaches or 5-star, you know, dietitians and things like that. And they can still come out and beat a team that was probably laden full of like junior Olympians and things like that. And so to see a sport that has like just amazing potential for so many different athletes, but also is such a phenomenal sport to even just watch or spectate or just participate in, be deficient of such amazing athletes, you know, because anybody could be a great athlete, but when you think about it, if your athletes or the people playing your sport only come from one specific group, and not that it's not, the sport's not inclusive of others, because it is, it's open to anybody. So no one is like barring the door. The door is barred, I think, by so many other barriers, including just like visibility and access, just the general knowledge about it. But if we can open that door, and that was always my impetus, if we can open that door and expose it to so many other people, imagine what we can do. You know, when you see hockey now, and it's pretty amazing, but the amount of states that it's in, or even the high schools that play it, and you think about all the places where it's not, instead of looking at it in a place of lack where it's like, oh, well, it's not here, or it doesn't have that potential, or it doesn't have this. It's kind of like, no, it's maybe only in 20 out of 50 states, but okay, that's 30 other states where you have an opportunity to really make magic happen and introduce players from all backgrounds to the sport. So my time at Richmond at the start, because of course all this hadn't happened yet, was a little daunting. I'm not gonna lie. There were definitely some moments where it was like, you know, going to certain areas or certain schools, and it was like, you know, you're gonna be that token, or you're gonna be the only person there, and you just kind of stick out like a sore thumb in some senses. But as I've grown older and, you know, you form a community and you meet other people who are in your same position, it's kind of like, you know what? We now have the means to make it better for the next person. And that's the entirety of my nonprofit. It was like to make it easier for the next player, the next white player, the next male player, the next handy-capable player, the next Black player, the next female player. Like, just, it was to make it easier for everyone else. So yeah, had it not been for Richmond, I mean, if I had gone someplace that was probably more diverse, not to say I wouldn't have gotten to the same point, but not having that same experience, I don't think I would have been as inspired to do what I'm doing now. I would definitely tell myself to just slow down and relax and enjoy the moment. I think, and we all have this issue where it's like you're so focused on what's next that sometimes you forget to relish in the now. And it's like at some point in that time where you are now was like a moment you prayed for or a moment you longed for. But once you get there, then it's kind of like, what's the next hurdle, or what's next for you? And so sometimes you don't just get enough time to enjoy it or rest and say, wow, like I did it. I'm proud of me. So I definitely tell myself that. I would also just tell myself be better at responding to emails. But no, in all seriousness, I would just tell myself seriously, like, keep going. Even now, I have some things on my plate where I'm really excited about, and I almost wish I'd started sooner with it. But I think everything comes to you when it should, when you have the capacity for it. Like, I've some like a coach from, where is he? He's in Kenya. In I'm trying to think of the actual city that he's in, but he reached out trying to get sticks and stuff. And in the moment, I was kind of like frustrated because I didn't have enough sticks for another project that I'm doing now. And I was just like, I don't have enough and blah, blah, blah. And then it was like, wait, no, like you've always talked about going internationally and being able to help other players. Like, how cool would this be? So I would just tell myself, like, you're doing fine, kid. Breathe, enjoy this moment. But also keep going, because obviously I've had my setbacks and I've had moments where it's just been like, why am I doing this? Or, like you said, we were talking about lacrosse earlier, and you see a sport like lacrosse that has just, if you were to compare it to hockey and its growth, even in the past decade or over the past 100 years, is starting to like eclipse us. And it's kind of like, okay, like I put all this work in, and yet it's just like, it seems like it's fallen on deaf ears, which I know it's not, but it's just kind of like, you know what? Breathe, you regroup, and you keep on going, because you can't give up. Because if you give up, then it's definitely not going to grow and it's not going to spread and you're not going to reach anybody. So I would just tell myself to just enjoy the moments as they come, but also don't give up. Keep going.